Climate change has been at the forefront of the world stage for decades. Greenhouse gases are the primary cause of climate change globally. The increasing effects of climate change could lead to food supply disruptions, extreme weather, extinction of species, and water shortage in the future that could be devastating. As the year marker 2050 approaches, attention is swinging heavily towards innovative methods to reduce carbon emissions, one of which being carbon capture and sequestration. Carbon sequestration is the process by which carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere and held in solid or liquid form. Trees and algae do this for us all the time. But as we've ramped up the production of CO2, natural processes can no longer keep up. This is where human innovation needs to step in.
In 2020, the transportation sector accounted for 28% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, while power generation and manufacturing plants account for another approximate 48.9% of CO2 emissions, primarily caused by the burning of fossil fuels. Currently, atmospheric levels of CO2 are at the highest levels ever recorded and are responsible for about 3/4 of emissions worldwide. This has caused legislative change around the globe, which calls for innovation, specifically in the automotive, electrical, and manufacturing industries.
Right now, electric vehicles are seen as the go-to way to reduce emissions from the transportation sector. But although they're becoming more and more affordable, the cheapest electric car in the U.S. is $29,900, making it almost twice as much as the average consumer in the U.S. is willing to pay for a new car. Coupled with the time it takes to charge and the accessibility of charging stations, electric car technology is not a great option for low to middle income consumers and will remain out of reach for years to come. Due to increased legislation, car companies are searching for ways to save money while reducing their carbon footprint. Some manufacturers have already pivoted to electric vehicles, but a growing number are looking towards alternative fuel sources. Specifically, Porsche, a company which sold over 20,000 electric cars last year, is still looking for ways to reduce their carbon footprint that don't involve electric car production, and are currently partnering with ExxonMobil and Siemens to try and develop a synthetic, carbon-neutral fuel that would not only work with cars, but also trucks, airplanes, and ships.
Synthetic carbon-neutral fuels are, quite simply, hydrocarbon fuels made with recycled CO2, which are nearly identical to traditional petroleum-based fuels. They have the potential for rapid deployment, as the processes to make the fuel already exist, and implementing it into the current delivery system is as easy as loading it onto refueling trucks instead of traditional gasoline. No modification would be necessary to the structure of a car's engine or to the storage and delivery network currently in place across the country, making it an incredibly easy solution to implement while we await the potential arrival of an all-electric age. The biggest hurdle preventing synthetic carbon-neutral fuels from becoming a reality is the low cost effectiveness of current carbon capture technology and the high demand for CO2 that is integral to production. If the challenge of cheaply and effectively sequestering CO2 is overcome, carbon neutral fuels are set to break into the $181 billion US oil and gas industry, not to mention the $4.677 trillion global market. And whoever can sequester carbon the most efficiently will be at the forefront of that industry. There are 6 main forms of carbon capture within the $1.3 billion industry, each with their own challenges. As you can see, most sequestration techniques are either incredibly expensive or low in efficiency, and thus are nearly impossible to scale in order to meet the current needs of the market. This leaves us with membrane-based carbon sequestration, which is energy efficient, simple, and easily adapted to various applications, but currently struggles with mediocre capture rates and high expense based on the substrate materials needed.
This is where ZTech comes in. ZTech would use low-cost zeolite membranes on alumina hollow fiber substrates to sequester carbon from power plant flue gas streams and car exhaust systems. Dr. Sankar Nair, Dr. Xiaowei Yang, and Dr. Christopher Jones of Georgia Tech have developed 2 new methods for fabricating low-cost zeolite membranes used in carbon capture techniques with the ability to capture and store up to 90% of carbon emissions. Both methods offer a path forward for utilizing zeolite sieves to accelerate and scale up applications for separating gases and other molecules for energy production, and especially greenhouse mitigation. The 2-step process of capturing and storing carbon is reduced to a single step with the installation of this product, rendering carbon sequestration easy and affordable with the benefit of reducing emissions and generating profit. With legislation pushing for the cleaner operation of businesses, manufacturers will be looking for ways to meet emission standards while keeping costs low. ZTech will sell these affordably produced membranes to manufacturers at a low cost and help facilitate an exchange with carbon-neutral fuel producers. Car manufacturers will also be able to implement membrane systems, which would allow individual cars to collect carbon from their exhaust fumes and recycle the waste produced into more carbon-neutral fuel.
By providing a drastically cheaper, more efficient solution to membrane-based carbon sequestration, we can revolutionize the carbon capture industry and innovate a viable solution for one of the biggest challenges faced by factories, as well as automotive manufacturers today.